WhatsApp messages. We've seen your Facebook posts as well. Keep on sending them, by the way. And today we want to focus on the effects of the pandemic on the youth. Speaking of which, here's our question of the day. Please let us know what you think. And as a young person, of course, we invite you to tell us, as a youth living in Kenya, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your lifestyle? So, K24TV across all of them. And of course, right on your screen is our WhatsApp number. Pia wazazi, even if you're not a young person, please let us know. If you're a parent to that young person that we're talking about, let us know. What can you see in that person? How have they been affected by the pandemic that perhaps you think if it wasn't for the pandemic, they probably would have been different? So this is a conversation for everyone, not just the young people. Speaking of which, let me introduce my panel. And I'll start with Wisdom Kizito, who's the Kenyan creative and activist member, Isiolo County. He's sitting on the other side of the studio. Mr. Kizito, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Uko salama kabisa?
Nashukuru Mungu, alhamdulillah.
Hii pandemic imekuleta mbio kama watu wengine? Ama uko tu sawa ulipo?
Sana. Nimeleta mbio especially venye mimi niko kwa creative industry. Watu wa industry tu mnaelewa venye si ndio tumeumia sana.
For sure.
Sana,
yeah.
Especially I'm an event organizer, so yeah, you can
imagine. There are no events.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't perform.
Yeah.
So kakitu akaingi. So how are you surviving, Kizito? Let me just ask you now that we're on you.
Okay, ilibidi tu because sasa vitu zilisimama tu instant. So ilibidi tu we come up with the creative ways or some other ways that we can survive.
Yes.
Especially saa hivi venye unaona venye COVID ilikuja, sama mbio entertainment pia tukajaribu kuventure into online spaces, digital spaces.
Okay.
Yeah, and tuna cope too.
All right.
Because we have to be creative. Yeah.
We'll get in depth on also how other ways the young people, especially people in entertainment like you, can also cope. We also do have Mr. Tyson Majani, Youth and Governance Facilitator, ActionAid International. Ken, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Uko salama?
Yes, niko salama.
Pia unaka uko msemi young, ama you're young at heart?
Niko young all over.
Young all over?
Yes.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How is ActionAid?
We are doing well. And trying our best to ensure that we are working with the constituents we work with.
Right.
To ensure that the issues that matter to them are being factored into spaces where decisions are being made.
Wow, okay, it's very elaborate there. We also have Susan Otieno, Executive Director, ActionAid International Kenya. Now that I have all your names, vizuri nimeshikanisha. So Susan, how is ActionAid?
We are well, as my colleague has said, working with the constituents that we work with, focusing mainly to alleviate poverty, marginalization, as well as injustices.
Right.
Yes, and of course we are working with young people and their community.
Right.
To ensure that even in this season where the COVID-19 pandemic has affected us, affected the economy at large, and there's the big impact on the young people to start with, because these are young people who are either marginalized, unemployed, they were in colleges, they were in schools, and COVID has had its effect on these areas. So we know that there are a big number of them who are really affected.
Susan, let me ask you, because you're the, it's not, you see, for a hospital, it is the sick who come to be treated.
Yes.
But for you, you literally go looking for people to assist. Yes. Isn't it depressing? Every day you're meeting women who've been raped, children who have been orphaned, people suffering from diseases that, you know, have no cure sometimes, and then you've said, you know, working with people in the slums and so on. Isn't it depressing every single day? Isn't it depressing?
It's not depressing. It's disturbing, but not depressing. It would be depressing if there were no solutions. But we know there are solutions. We know there are more than just ActionAid or other organizations as ActionAid that should be working around it. We know there's a government that has the capacity. So it's not depressing, it's disturbing. But because we know that if we work with them in their own institutions, in their communities, in their setups, to just come up with solutions. If we work with them, and if we also work with them to create the spaces, to interact with the other stakeholders, the government, other organizations, but amongst themselves, then we know their results. And we've done this. ActionAid has been in Kenya since 1972.
ActionAid?
Yes.
Since 19 what?
1972.
72. Hata sikuwa najulikana.
Najua.
Hata sikuwa nimezaliwa.
And can imagine from 1972, next year we are celebrating 50 years.
Wow, congrats.
And thank you so much. Our focus has been on that person who's marginalized, that person who's excluded out of the processes that they should be benefiting from.
Okay.
So with 50 years, we've seen that there are certain steps that if we take them, and number one is ensuring that there's participation of the people who are affected. There's also enabling them, opening spaces, information for them to have knowledge and giving them that space.
Right.
And just building that inner power in them to be able to go ahead and ask for what is rightfully theirs, ask to participate, ask to be included, ask to be heard.
Okay.
Then we believe the solutions will come up.
Wisdom, let me get back to you. I don't know, umetoka mtaa gani tuanzie hapo?
Mimi nimetoka Isiolo County.
Isiolo County?
Yeah.
Huko Isiolo. Hapo in your neighborhood, what are some of the biggest problems you think the youth face regardless of there being a pandemic?
The big problem ni youth unemployment. So that's the big problem. And also mambo ya unajua kama Isiolo, mambo ya drugs pia imekuwa mob. And violence extremism. Yeah. So unajua sisi tuko karibu na hizo border za Somalia and yeah, so lack of employment inafanya mayouth wanaingia kwa bad activities. So those are the main challenges.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that you've mentioned, you know, crime, crime is obviously something that the youth resort to, especially when they have no option.
Yeah.
At least wewe ni msanii unaweza tengeneza ngoma uweke YouTube ipate views, uamkika kitu, uitwe na governor wako, uperform kwa some event upate kitu. But people actually do not have the opportunities that you have. Do you feel like the youth have got enough opportunities in this country? Now forget Isiolo. Do you feel like the youth have got enough opportunities in this country that they can actually exploit so they can stop over-depending perhaps on institutions such as the government and even ActionAid and others?
Pardon, please. Do you think that the youth have?
Do you think that the youths have got enough opportunities that they can exploit so that they can stop over-depending on institutions such as the government and NGOs such as ActionAid?
No, I don't think the youths have like enough opportunities because that when we come to talent, it's not easy.
Yes.
Out there, the industry is very tough, and unapata hata ukiangalia a lot of young people ama watu wenye wako kwa industry, unapata a lot of them wako na depression because industry is tough. Na wale wako kwa game wanaweza kuambia I shifted from being an artist to an event organizer.
Yes.
A person that can create that platform for the talented people or people who are in entertainment industry. But I can say there is no enough opportunities.
Okay.
And also hata hizo the systems zenye zina deal na mambo ya royalties and everything, ama support system yenye inafaa support the talented young people who are in the game are not doing enough. So unapata hata hiyo talent, it's not paying you enough to be somewhere or pay your bills.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the government need to do something, need to do more. And also the available entities zenye zina deal na mambo ya youth ama development, they really need to consider youth activities.
All right. Let's take a look at some of your WhatsApp messages, guys. I believe they've started streaming in. Kuna jamaa hapa anasema, we started business in 2018. With all the savings we had with my wife when COVID-19 came, we were unable to pay rent. We shut it down, painful experience. Now we don't know where to start again. Daniel from County 15, it brought a very tough experience. All right. Mwingine hapa anasema, honestly, it has not been easy back in school. I could have completed by now, but look at where I am now. Anyway, we move regardless. That is actually a show of strength. Dominic Biegon anasema, I thank God COVID-19 hasn't affected me or family directly since I still have a good job and good health. But it delayed schooling for my young child who just joined PP1 at 5 years. We thank God again. Positive messages coming through. And then last but not least, we do have, hii ni mrefu, wacha nitayarishe ko. Hello, Mbuvi. First COVID case was first announced on 13th March, and I lost my job on 16th March. Guy, 3 days later. Since then, life has been a hell of a ride, and it's not a secret that some of us are trying to keep our heads above the water, and it doesn't make it any better putting into consideration that there are lots of people who are looking up to us for upkeep. There are some things I never thought I'd do for survival, but here I am doing whatever comes my way for money and bluntly ignoring the collateral damage. And I wouldn't be surprised to hear someone say that Klaus nowadays amebadilika. This is Klaus Ngoli from Machakos. Wa? Klaus, I wonder what you're doing, because umesema kuna collateral. I hope it's nothing illegal. Tyson.
Yes.
Coming to you. Do you think, the same question I asked Mr. Kizito, do you think that we have enough opportunities as the youth that we can exploit, so that we don't keep on saying every single morning, Serikali's idea, looking up to people like yourselves for assistance, ActionAid, and the other NGOs that you're working alongside with?
I would say there are opportunities, but they are not enough. From the reactions that you've read from people sharing, I think 1 in 5 people are saying they are struggling due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And when you look at the responsibility to make sure that, for example, young people have opportunities to lead a decent life or earn a decent income, it lies squarely to the state or the government. And if you read Article 55 of the Kenyan Constitution, it clearly says the state should take measures, including affirmative action measures, to make sure that young people have access to political, economic, and social opportunities, and also employment opportunities. So it means that if we have 1 in about 5 people who are really struggling to have a decent income, it means there is something wrong with how the state is addressing, especially the plight of young people in the country.
Right.
Just recently we did a research as ActionAid to just assess the impact of the pandemic on young people. And 60% of them mentioned that they were finding it very difficult to lead like a dignified life. Many of them were not able even to pay rent for those who live in rented houses. And 73% of them mentioned that they need support to get back to their life. So it means when it comes to opportunities out there, especially for the youth of this country, it's really hard for them.
Well, you're mentioning very big numbers there, 73%. That is scary. Susan, NGOs such as yours have been there for, like you said, 50 years. Others have been there longer. Others are just coming up. In a country where we have dozens and dozens and probably even thousands of NGOs, why, and these NGOs have been there for years, why isn't the life of those people that you're trying to help getting better?
So we need to agree on one thing, that the existence of NGOs does not take up government responsibility. It comes to close a gap. And closing a gap means you can only model. So an NGO like ActionAid cannot be in every area. The research that my colleague has spoken about was conducted in 5 counties. How about the other counties? We have 47. How about the 42? But you can see that this is a representation of the young people in this nation. So we can only model. And when we model, we then need to be engaging with the government, because the government has policies. Those policies need to be implemented. And if you're to implement policies in a right manner, then you need to be very articulate on the steps, mean it, and then do it and follow up. These young people you hear, they can actually audit what has been done. They know that what we do with them is to model, but also enable them to engage with the government. So at what point is the government engaging with their own, so that the taxes that we pay can speak into the lives of these young people. Many of them are crying. The cost of living became expensive, actually, of the 60%. The cost of living went high. You've lost rent. So despite the relief, there were tax relief, there were funds that were being directed to the young people. But whatever was directed to them was to bring up a business. But you're homeless. What is the social protection doing? So we cannot expect the NGOs to do what the government should do. But we are here as a friend of the government to reach areas where we feel we can reach as NGOs, but bring that learning and the lessons for an engagement also with the government. And not for us to lead. Ideally, as ActionAid, you'll hardly see us at the forefront because we believe the communities, the young people, they know what is due to them. And if they do not know, then it's our role as we interact with them to let them understand what is your right as a Kenyan, a young person in Kenya. And beyond that, how do you then interact with the systems that are in place to make your life better?
Yes.
Yes.
Kizito, as a young man, where do you think the government is failing? Because Susan has said that they're there to complement the government, assist the government, they're a friend of the government. So clearly the line that we should be, the word we should be underlining here is government. So as a young person, if you were an opposition leader today, where would you be criticizing the government as far as matters youth are concerned?
Okay, I think the government need to work on the policies that have been there, or implement the policies that are youth-lens, the policies that are looking into youth agendas and youth development. Because most of the time the challenge is the policies that are being made there, they are not youth-lens. So unaona hizo policy as favor youth. So that's the challenge. So
policy kama gani? Yenye unaweza sema kama kuna hii moja yenye making sense.
Yenye making sense. Okay, I can say we have a right to decent work.
Yes.
Or also we also have a right for accessing the youth development funds or enterprise funds. But you see the process of getting these funds are not easy. So unapata inazuia a lot of young people who apply these funds ili wasaidie kufanya biashara. So those are some of the policies that are there zenye zinafanya life inakuwa tough for most of young people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Tyson, do you think that the government is failing in some of these situations such as that one? Because the pandemic just came to and amplified the situation. We've had problems before accessing those youth funds that he's talking about and the enterprise funds and so on. Corruption is a big issue because hiyo pesa ningeenda kuapply nipewe kama loan nifungue biashara, kuna mtu amechukua kaba V8 nayo. You know? So do you think that perhaps the government is just it's just a mess?
I think the government has tried. There are measures it's tried to put in place to support the livelihoods of young people. For example, what Kizito has mentioned, the existence of these affirmative action funds like the Youth Fund, the Uwezo Fund and so on. And even recently during when the pandemic just came in, they came up with the Kazi Mtaani initiative to support. So it's tried to support the young people, but the support is not sufficient, and also the support largely misses the views of young people.
Yes.
So it just sits somewhere and thinks like, okay, our young people need support, and we think this is the support that they need. So they don't consult young people. Because even, for example, when it comes to these affirmative action funds, you'll find that many young people actually do not know they exist, or if they know they exist, there is too much bureaucracy on how you can access and utilize this fund. So many young people tried, but along the way, due to bureaucracy, they just opt out of the whole process.
Okay.
The recent Youth Mtaani or Kazi Mtaani initiative, as you've mentioned also, during our research, we also interrogated how effective was it to respond to the economic needs of young people. And we found that many of them, yes, felt it was a temporary solution, but there is need for a long-term solution.
Okay.
Because there are young people who are very good skilled, they have, for example, papers, they are ready to get a decent work, but they cannot have that opportunity to showcase their skills at the end of the day.
All right. So, it's my opinion that perhaps we are over-dependent also on NGOs and governments as well. Could be wrong. We're taking a short break. When we come back, of course, let's look at things from that angle. Hii story ya serikali saidia kila wakati. Personally, I am not for it. But anyway, we're looking forward to hearing from you. How has the pandemic impacted your life as a young person? Don't go too far. Tuaje sasa hivi.